talking about starting a business from zero. I was financially at zero, mentally at zero. I had a newborn at home. It took almost 19 months to get that place open. Just maxed out every single credit card. You believe it and you're like, I don't care. I don't care if I don't sleep. I don't have any money. I don't have money for diapers. I don't care if I do 4 shifts in a row. I'll sleep, like the Mexicans say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. We specialize on Latin spirits, which is, pisco, tequila, mezcal. We have raicilla, cachaça, diplomatico, Venezuelan rum. The menu changes every single day. So in 10 years, we have not had the exact same menu on the board any day. Everybody's got that, horror story of something happening with a partnership that you weren't ready or planning for. And I take it at it. It was one of the biggest learning lessons that I've ever had. Don't give up. Don't focus on the bad. Focus on what that did to you, how it helped you become who you are. I am always learning. It's something that is never going to stop from developing because there's always another layer of anything. And I am 100% content and happy and fulfilled with what I do. I really do.
Welcome everybody to an episode of TAOL Podcast, and I'm personally very excited about this episode. We're going to talk about something called mezcal and a journey to introduce this concept to the large audience in a foreign country. Her bar is one of the most beautiful places I've seen. The patio, if you have the chance to go, please go. That patio is just fantastic. Lily, welcome to TAOL Podcast. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here, actually. I am.
Why don't you tell us the brand, the concept that you're representing here today, and what's your role there?
Okay. So I was born in Mexico City and grew up there all of my childhood and my preteens and moved to North Carolina. And I am the proud owner of La Veladora, Raleigh. It's a little mezcal bar behind or in between. Like you said, we have a patio that we just opened, and William & Company, which is the front bar in a neighborhood in Oakwood, North Carolina. Very cute in Raleigh. Veladora is the mezcal bar that we opened 2 years ago. So that is right after COVID. So that was challenging based on, what was happening with the world. And also, as you said, featuring an agave spirit that is a very hard, complex, and very rare spirit, especially in the United States, especially in North Carolina as a controlled state, which means that our ABC laws are completely different than other states. There's only 13 states in the country that are controlled, and we're one of them. The rules are a little challenging at the least. And also the product is very rare and very hard to obtain. It's not like getting a bottle of Kettle One.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what's the relationship between La Veladora and William & Company? Are they the same? How do you guys operate?
So I feel like William & Company is more we're open every day of the week. We're open 7 days a week till 2 a.m. in the morning. It's a really cool space where we specialize on Latin spirits, which is, pisco, tequila, mezcal. We have raicilla, cachaça. We try to feature diplomatico, Venezuelan rum. So we are largely interested or featuring or focus on Latin American and South American spirits. Being from Mexico City, of course, mezcal and tequila are probably like our big hitters there. We, with William & Company opening 10 years ago, we feel like we pushed a lot of mezcal into the world. We had a lot of exposure with our menu. Our menu also changes every single day. So every day I would go to the farmer's market and get a pineapple or a watermelon, some mint, whatever herbs we have in hand. I would bring it to the staff and I would say, let's come up with 3 drinks with these ingredients. And tomorrow we are going to use a different spirit. The menu changes every single day. So in 10 years, we have not had the exact same menu on the board
So that's for customers who are like, okay, surprise me.
Yeah, I'm like,
okay?
pick. But it has these good things because we practice a lot of no waste, mentality, and so that's how we use everything, right? Yeah. But it also is challenging if somebody comes in, they're like, that drink was so awesome. What is it? And we're like, I don't know. He made it up last night, so I don't really know what the recipe is. We do have a recipe book we started, but you can only imagine if you have 10 years of every single day recipes, we probably did not write all of them down. So. Yeah. But we have our favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have my favorites too every time I go there. Of course, yeah. So, Lily, tell us a little bit more about this journey. So, you mentioned you were born in Mexico City. And when did you move here? And did you get here in Raleigh?
Yeah, that's funny. I actually moved to Creedmoor, North Carolina, which is a little bit more of a rural town. I think it's probably, an hour and a half from Raleigh, probably. Very rural. I was really young, probably not a lot of Mexican population when I moved here. I wasn't bilingual either. I didn't speak a lot of English. I had enough, probably English education as maybe first or second grade level. So that was challenging culturally to move to, the United States, coming from a city like Mexico City, which is big. So it was almost backwards, moving to a country in the country from one of the biggest cities in the world. But I think that I was lucky that I was very oblivious to what was going on because I didn't speak the language. So I don't think that I received or was aware of a lot of what was going on around me, really. So, but moved here, then moved to Raleigh for high school. And then I started my journey in the service industry right after high school. Actually, during high school, I worked at a restaurant, Conky. It's in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's at the mall. It's like the Japanese steakhouse. I was a hostess there. That was my first service job. And to tell you the truth, I loved it. I loved the culture. I loved how fast it was. I love meeting new people. I love that I could be friends with an 80-year-old man that would come in and also a 17-year-old boy that would come into the restaurant. There's no age. There's a lot of diversity in a restaurant because everybody's got to eat, So I love the service industry. I started working there and then quickly moved to the downtown Raleigh where I waited tables at 5-Star Restaurant, which was on Hargate Street. And that was pretty much my home. Loved, again, waiting tables only, bartending. I started saving money, went to NC State for biology and genetics, which is crazy. I was pre-med the first year because I was like, I'm going to be a science nerd, which later on really, really helped me on now what I'm doing. All that chemistry, organic and organic chemistry really came into play into what I do, which then I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not something I really want to explore. And then I started running bars around town. And it's a very similar story when people are in the industry. And in the industry, you start somewhere and then you rapidly grow to a role of leadership. And then I think that's when you make the decision if you're going to stay in this leadership role and keep going, or if you're, going to maybe move to another adventure.
Do you find science to be less rewarding than the service industry? Absolutely.
I thought, my mom comes from a very educated background where she is, a biologist, anatomist, chemist, teacher. So to her, I think education was really important. And to me, it wasn't fun. And I was also paying for my own school, so it was really expensive. And yeah, I didn't find it interesting. And what's so crazy is now, 25, 30 years later, I catch myself at a restaurant asking what the pH on this kombucha and what type of fermentation they used. And if they used second fermentation, they added sugar. And if so all of this kind of comes full circle now that I'm older, on how I'm utilizing that information that then I was like, ugh, so boring, I don't care. And now I'm like, oh my God, this is so interesting, like the bacteria. Anyway, just going back to, no, I did not find that interesting at all. And I was doing it pretty much to please my parents to go to school. So when I was at that age, I guess.
That's really interesting. I think we are going to have so many conversations because I'm actually brewing my own kombucha.
Are you? Yeah. Well, I make the pache for the bar, which is a Mexican indigenous way of making kombucha. It comes from pineapple, right? Yeah, pineapple, piloncillo. And I have so many different recipes. And I have a 4-day production of kombucha at the bar, like constantly. So we can definitely talk. We can
Absolutely.
Definitely talk. Yeah,
especially because it's like really good for your gut, all that good
gut
bacteria.
Health, all of that, yeah. It's all medicinal. It's a full circle again. I'm starting to see how everything that you put into your body really is who you are. That's why mezcal is so special to us. Mezcal is not just something to make you tipsy and get you in a good mood. It does do that, but it just has so much more spiritual power. The way that it's distilled, the way that people actually treat the land and the process is very, very special. And so,
And Lily, I get what you're saying, right? It's very different to experience something in a theoretical way, like learning, reading, and just not practicing. And the other part is the actual practice, the execution of something. And that's really fun, right?
Yeah.
Then after you realize about that, like, I want to be on the field. I want to be practicing. I want to be doing stuff. How did you decide opening? It was first Willco, William and Company. How that decision happened? Was that easy?
No, it actually, I owned a restaurant prior to that called Calavera, Empanada, and Tequila. And it was my first restaurant. I was 29 and I was so excited. I had all of my family recipes that were, kind of introduced and involved and tweaked into some empanadas and some salsas. And I knew the drinks that I wanted to be featured there. Anyway, long story short, awesome restaurant. I'm married. I am pregnant. I had a partner. And lesson learned with partnerships. I think everybody's got that, horror story of something happening with a partnership that you weren't ready or planning for. And I take it at it. It was one of the biggest learning lessons that I've ever had. It was a really hard learning lesson. It put me in probably a place of, after that happened with that restaurant that I put all of my love and all of my passion into, and it didn't work out for reasons. I was like, I'm done with the service industry. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to finish my biology degree. I'm going to get a genetics, research job, and done. I was there and I was 9 months pregnant. So I remember walking on Person Street. They had a pop-up ice cream shop where Willco is. And it was and I was super pregnant walking around. It was July because my kid was born in September. So it was so hot and I wanted ice cream. And I looked and I saw the spot and I was like, this would be a great bar. And I was done. I was like, I am not doing this again. Like, I'm done. And I went up and I talked to them and they had like a lease, like a 3-month lease. It's a pop-up business. So it wasn't going to be there permanently. And I went to talk to the owners of the space and they pretty much were like, to be honest, probably looked and said, you want to open a bar? 9 months pregnant. Like, how are you going to do that? I was like, I'm ready. I used to own a restaurant before, And you could tell this venue was really, they were really good people because they did have someone in place that I could have just taken over a lease because I offered 5 years up front. And they were like, no, we have somebody that's, renting it for the next 3 months. So that also gave me knowledge about the people that possibly, if this would happen, I would be renting from. And they are not mean or conniving or, they honor contracts. So that is how 2 months later, I think they pop up ice cream shop kind of snuck out of town in the middle of the night. So they kind of left them hanging and they called me and they're like, do you still want this? And I was there within 15 minutes signing that lease. I was like, yes, let's do it. So that was, you talking about starting a business from zero. I was financially at zero. I was mentally at zero. I had a newborn at home. And so pretty much everything to be like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you're not in a good place. I was like, I'm going to do it. And, it took almost 19 months to get that place open because it was physically in really bad shape. It needed plumbing, it needed AC, it needed everything. And I didn't have any money. And I just maxed out every single credit card I had, which, financially, is probably the worst thing you can do. And so I did. I was at zeros. And as soon as it opened, I had, from having friends in the industry, I had a lot of friends that I was like, I'm going to open up a bar. You guys ready to come bartend? And they were like, okay, whenever you open it, let us know. And then 2 weeks before we opened, I was like, all right, training starts in 2 weeks. And you would walk into Willco. I didn't even have a bar top. Like, they were like, you're not going to be open. I'm like, oh, I am. You just wait. 48 hour days, got it open. And I still have some of the people that started the business with me.
Nice.
About 3 employees that opened the business are still with me. So they've been with me for 10 years, which I'm really appreciative of. And I'm very, I thank them because they also saw the transition of, we were ringing $500 on a Friday and Saturday. And these are experienced bartenders that have made money at other places, and we're new and nobody knows we're here. We're in a different neighborhood. All of our neighbors that have businesses now, they weren't there. We didn't have any street presence. We had no patio. We had no light. We had no sign. So they saw this business grow from zero to what we are now, which is we are one of like the highest volumes cocktail bars probably in Raleigh, and we are now established, of course, after 10 years. So Veladora came in right in the middle of that because we just love mezcal. I love the culture. I love the process of it. And that's when I was like, well, Willco worked. Maybe we can do something like this. But that was a pretty low, I was in a really low place in my life right before I opened up William and Company. And, I went through a divorce very shortly after. So it was like one after another. I was like, yeah.
So how long was that period that you said like, oh my God, this was quite a nightmare?
I mean, probably a good solid 3 years where it was, we were very slow. I was really, really broke. Everything I had was into the business, and, I had a really small child also. So single mom, it was rough.
How do you think, what were the tools that you used to overcome all these kind of challenges? Do you think one thing, and I'm going to take the risk, I think your ability to make connections with people and getting the right support from the right people was potentially key?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Everybody says, it takes a village, and your village really shows when you're at your worst. And when you don't want to ask for help and people, step up, which was, I'll never forget that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was not ready for that, but yeah. Very good. Like I said, all of my staff at the beginning and even now was really small. Like we went from having 5 people in staff, which I was bartending 3 or 4 shifts out of the week. Also, I don't know how I did that physically. Like 4 shifts bartending after you're 35 is a lot, Yeah, it definitely took a lot of support from even my community and from staff and from the neighborhood. And, the ability to connect was probably one of
I feel that it started since the beginning with the right foot, because you said like that relationship with the person or the team, the people who are selling the business, right? That's so important. In real estate, they don't really let you meet the buyer. They don't let the buyer and the seller meet. When I bought my house in Raleigh, I actually met the owner, and we both were very surprised that they let us talk.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I'm still texting him.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, I found this cable in the backyard. Like, do you know what?
That's awesome. But see, that's awesome to have that ability to do that. And I think a lot of contracts are so black and white, and they're so don't do this, don't do that, protect yourself. And I think you're right. I think that once you find another person that feels the same way as you do, then that's when you are like, and we're going to be good, So, yeah.
That's awesome, Lily. Now, going back a little bit, and I want to touch a little bit more on what you described, but I want to save it for a little later. Mezcal is a very specific spirit, as you mentioned. How are you educating the customer to teach them this is how you drink it, but this is where it comes from. This is how we make this kind of sustainable. How are you attacking that process?
Well, first of all, I am always reading, right? Always reading. Something's always coming out on mezcal. But I think the most important part of education is through experience. And I am a huge believer I've taken my team to Mexico, to Oaxaca twice now, and we're planning our 3rd trip. It gets a little, hard with money, managing so many things going on because we have had more growth in the business. But I usually take everyone that wants to go bar back, bartender, everyone is included. I take care of the house and the experience. I make sure that I connect with all of the mezcalerias in Mexico. And that is one thing that I've been really, really focused on now that I have had the experience and the connections to connect with the actual producers and the actual people that are working in the fields, the actually managers, the brand ambassadors in the country. I'm really proactive about keeping a relationship with them. And with that said, because of these relationships and because of these trips, we go and we visit with the family. They show us how they distill. They show us how they harvest. They show us like their lifestyle. It's not just, oh, look at this bottle and then look at this book, look at the mezcalero he's chopping. I mean, we went and chopped the mezcal. We were in the heat. We were in the house without AC and in the production room. We were bottling, we were packing boxes. I mean, that process alone, just seeing that in 1 or 2 days. I mean, this is someone's life, right? And this is their livelihood, and they're very, invested in what they do. And I think that translating and exposing that to my staff, they're able to understand how hard it is to have this bottle here, first of all, in the US, second of all, in North Carolina, third of all, on a controlled state, and fourth of all, for you to be able to have met these people and you are pouring it into someone's glass. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. It definitely hits you different, and you're able to relate and tell them a story like, oh, we were eating while they were making these huge tortillas in their backyard because they had to stay up for 24 hours to watch the flame and of the distill. So I mean, it was like an all-nighter, and it's an all-nighter not just for grandpa, it's for grandpa and grandma, and the kids were running around, and it's something like that kind of experience, the family that works together to have this product. I think that's something that you firsthand have to experience and understand, and it's priceless. It's so priceless. I do believe it. And a lot of other bar owners or other people are like, well, what if they leave? Like, you took them to Mexico and then like they're gone, and then you invested all this. And I'm like, but I invested in them so they can hopefully go somewhere and share this education, not just for me and for my staff. I mean, for William and Company of Veladora, it's important to share what you learn and what you've experienced with others, not just, customers.
That's a great and unique approach that not everybody takes.
Yeah.
Because what I'm getting from here is the way you educate the customers. First of all, is by training and educating the staff, because they are the ones sharing the knowledge with the customer. And if they understand the process, they will be able to talk with that passion, and then the final consumer is gonna feel it. This is not something that you take a shot like tequila.
Oh my God, please don't shoot it. Actually, that's the first thing we say. I'm like, here you go, do not shoot it. Yeah. Like, please, I mean, you can, but don't shoot it. Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit the process of how mezcal is, it's from taking care of the agave all the way to how you serve it? How long can that take? 'Cause I'm not an expert, but I know some agave, this is the plant, right? Specific types take 14, 20 years to grow.
Yes.
And that's when you can actually cut it to produce a mezcal. But how would you describe in some steps the process?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and everyone, I think a lot of different mezcal producers do it differently. There's, as you know, different mezcales ancestrales and different categories. We'll just go with like an espadín that is probably the most wild and harvested, is the base of all the juices pretty much. An espadín, I think, is originally in Oaxaca, and you harvest it between 7 to 9 years. And this is an interesting fact that I just learned. How to read the bottles. I think that is a really good way of realizing the juice that you're drinking, is how to read a bottle. If it's a espadín from Oaxaca, sometimes you'll have something saying that is, it different. I'm trying to think of the terminology in English, but it tells you, like, we harvest it. It's good to go between 7 and 9. We harvested at 9. We didn't do like the minimum or the 8. It's at the biggest point of where the juice and where the sugar is at. That's when we harvest. So the plant grows. You harvest the agave. You cut all of the leaves off. You have the peña, which is the heart, You split that into half. You let it rest for about 1 or 2 days because you want you leave it out because you want the fermentation process to gain the sugar. Almost you want it to start going bad. You know what I mean? To ferment. When you see flies and bees and stuff around the agave after 2 days, that's when you're like, all right, it's starting to get juicy. And then you put it in an oven, a huge oven. You have to have a specific type of wood to bake it with, and a specific type of volcanic rock. It has to be this specific type. If not, it doesn't cook well. The process of it is incredible. I actually go visit my friends in Puerto Vallarta, which is in Jalisco, so it's not Oaxaca. But they do agave destilados, which doesn't have the stamp that says it's tequila or mezcal, but it's an agave spirit to the tea. They do it really well. We go there, we put everything in the oven, everything gets covered. I mean, this is a whole day process. I mean, you wake up at 5 a.m. and at 3 p.m. you might be done with all of the piñas inside the oven with the layers of the volcanic rock and the wood. It's so interesting how they place everything. I mean, if you leave a little hole in between the agave, the volcanic rock, and the wood. I mean, there was a gentleman that was working there forever. His name was, everybody called him Tio, and he was like, oh, you're going to make it all burn. Like, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, oh my God. So it was very strategic of how to place the agaves on top of each other so that there would be no air pockets. Because if there's an air pocket, it would burn the whole thing.
Wow.
So if you mess one thing up, it could cause the whole thing to burn and bake, and they're just still hate you. So he was like, you're doing it wrong. So, I mean, putting everything in flows, and then it starts, baking. Once you have had the rocks like lit, because you want kind of like the charcoal underneath like lit up, you let it sit there for like, I think, a day, and then you put all the agave, then you put all the rocks, and then you put all the things, and you put all the sand, and it is like a beautiful process. It takes 2 to 3 days, and then you let it bake, and then you're watching it. I mean, Tio was there from beginning of the night to the end of the night watching. If there's like I said, if there's just a little bit of gap of air, it would burn the whole thing. Oh yeah, the whole thing. And it's a lot of agave, a lot of work. So after they do that, they take it out, and I'll show you some videos. I was there like peeling the agave apart, like chopping everything by hand. I mean, it's such a amazing, rewarding, humbling process, and a hard physical life. I was there for only a week and a half, and I don't know if I can do this on the regular, but it was awesome, very rewarding. Like I said, they take it out, they put it on still, they do a first distillation process with it, then they do a second distillation to lower the alcohol. This process, I mean, I can nerd out about all of this, but just in a really quick nutshell, I was there for about 10 days, and we did one whole process from beginning to end. Like I said, very rewarding and amazing process. Also, knowing what they're adding to their agave fibers, how they are fermenting, natural yeast. They're not using artificial yeast. They're using their own, like mother, kind of like kombucha, and not adding anything to it. One of the talks right now is how many additives they're adding to tequila and mezcal to yield better production or just larger production. And is glycerin, is vanilla flavor, is artificial sugar, which you can tell immediately. If you start nerding out about mezcal, you immediately can tell when you're drinking one if it's got additives. Or you can tell if they burned it. Like you're I think they burnt this, or this got too much lactic acid. Like they probably left it here for like fermenting and that, But all of these things are things that you pick up just from drinking it. But the process alone, it's priceless and so time consuming.
That's why having this process to be sustainable is so important, because this is not something that you can plant on your backyard, right? It's a whole process.
Yeah, you have to wait. You have to be very patient. You have to think about, like you said, a lot of mezcalerias in Mexico are letting some of them produce all the way to the top. Like when they're done producing, all of the little seeds, when it flowers, and and then it dies. So when it flowers, they're letting it produce so they can keep, like the circle of life producing. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what the percentage is, and I'm sure not a lot of people do this, but they're supposed to keep, I think 30% of the fields. That's what you keep, so it keeps sustaining. A lot of people do different things, maybe more or less. There's a lot of really cool projects in Oaxaca and a lot of cool brands that are doing a lot of really great stuff to like maintain and sustain this, that it doesn't look good right now with, like the amount of agave that is being harvested so early. Like now people are harvesting it at 6 years, maybe 5, which is way too young.
And I think I heard that there are some specific types of agave that are in danger because people are harvesting in large amounts, and they shouldn't be doing that if they want to preserve the production. There is also some people, I heard this from a podcast that talks about mezcal, and they were talking, these are women, only women who are mezcal owners, they produce mezcal. And they were saying that they have a lot of people from California, because California has some type of similar conditions. And they are taking the seeds to California and they are changing the production to a more industrialized way.
Yeah.
And I think that's very dangerous, not only because you're taking the seed out of the natural habitat. But also because you are putting in danger the livelihood of people who have spent like there are generations of people working on mezcal. And this is a very artistic process. What do you think about these changes where some people are pushing for more industrialized production ways?
I understand it from the business side, but I think that this is a very, like you said, I think that maybe culturally this is a little bit more special to us. It has a lot more history. Anything that gets industrialized to me is like a negative. If you are mass producing something, then you are going to lose the soul of it. And I think that this spirit has so much soul and so much history. It means so much more to us and maybe to other people if they understood it, that they wouldn't want to be able to just industrialize it and mass produce it. I'm not happy, and I'm not behind that kind of growth when it comes to watering down the project and the product. So
that's why, and for people listening, that's why you shouldn't be like drinking just like a shot and don't get drunk. I mean, if you want, but just learn how to drink it and honor the process and where it's coming from.
Yeah, there's a lot of, even medical journals that, I know the negative effects of alcohol. We are all very well aware of the social and emotional and physical, addictive, all of these things that alcohol could do. But this is one of the cleanest, purest form of spirit that you could drink. So if it's almost like if you want to take care of your body, you should be watching what you're putting in. And if you industrialize something like this, then you're putting bad things into your body. You're just putting a little bit of agave something in there, and then you're drinking it. So, I think it does. I think it loses a lot of soul and essence once you mass produce it.
Yeah.
So.
That's very important for everybody to be aware. Now, Lily, tell me more about, let's talk about your place, La Veladora, right? La Veladora, it's the mezcal specialized section of the, let's call it the William & Company complex. How did you design it? What's the culture around? Does it represent this state, Oaxaca from Mexico? And what makes it different? I mean, it's unique because it's specialized in mezcal. If you were looking at many different bars specialized in mezcal, what makes La Veladora unique?
I think La Veladora is very intentional, and it was really special for me. We started we started outsourcing mezcal probably a year before we opened, because we knew it was going to be that challenging to get any type of bottles back there. And so that process from the business side was really challenging. Either you need a lot of money to be able to bring a brand into North Carolina which means you have to buy a lot of product and a lot of volume. And when you're looking at the Pestate, a bottle that's 150 bottles, you can't really buy a whole pallet of it and sit on it and hope that someone is going to want to spend $30 for a 1.5 pour of a Tepestate that I'm like, this is so special. This was the 2017 Tepestate. You're not going to be able to get it probably in North Carolina ever again. And people are like, yeah, I'll take a vodka. And I'm like, So that was challenging with holding inventory and ordering It took a really long time, and it's a process of ordering and hoping that North Carolina will get it to you, and you pay for it up front, which is large amounts of money. And then months later, they just give you your money back, and they're like, we couldn't get it. And so that's challenging. But with that said, I feel like that's kind of like a general rule for anyone that has a mezcal bar here. Veladora is really special because I wanted, again, an experience. I didn't want just to come in and be like, here's a margarita with mezcal, or like, let's shoot this and fun. And not that it shouldn't be fun. I'm saying it's a lot more intentional. I wanted people to be able to sit down and absorb a little piece of the culture. I think the time that you visited, you said I walked in and I felt like I was in Mexico. And that is exactly the feeling that I want when I walked into my place, just to walk in and transform and kind of transform myself to where I am. Like, where am I? Oh my God, I feel like I'm in Mexico. And all the little tiny details everything has a story. Everything was really thought out, intentional. We have artisans that I have built a relationship ever since Calavera that have made us, our little copitas. They have handmade us our hand flowers. They made our our skulls for like the black clay from Oaxaca. We got them made by like a specific person that has known us and specifically made some of the pieces there for us. We've had curanderos de Oaxaca blessing Palo Santo and blessing things for us because it is a cultural, intentional place where I want people to come in and feel different. And I do believe in all of this stuff, I do believe in the way that people feel when they enter a room. A lot of people say, oh, it's such a cool vibe. It's such a good energy. And all of these things, I think, have to do with the intention and the pieces that are placed in different areas. I mean, we've moved the DJ around. We've moved to booths. We want people kind of more on top of each other talking and having conversations, And so all of the placements of it's intentional. I've planned it so it feels and you can feel what I want you to feel when you walk in, even with the music. I want you to experience something different. No, not what I feel. I want you to feel what makes you feel like this is a different space.
What's very interesting that you mentioned Palo Santo. And today I was walking around the house and I found Palo Santo. I don't know if you perceived the smell when you walked in.
I love it. Yeah.
It's rare. I don't usually do that.
Oh, really?
But I burned a little bit and I don't know why.
I think you were just blessing the space for the type of conversation we were going to have.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very aligned with all the traditions from Mexico, from this particular place called Oaxaca, which is fantastic. I would encourage everybody to go.
Yeah, it's different. It's a different world. It doesn't even feel like Mexico. It's a different world. So we have copal flowers that are made for us for Day of the Dead. A lot of really rare, cool mezcal that we're now lucky to be able to keep on the shelves, but mostly, the experience of something different, something that you are going to remember, or the way that this place and that song, what you were there, that made you feel that way. That's, again, connecting with the person beside you, with the bartender, having a really good conversation. I mean, I want it to be a very positive experience, whether you're a drinker or not.
Yeah. And you mentioned this is one of the very interesting points because I've been there a few times, a lot, and the music is unique. I was a musician in Mexico, and I love listening to new things from everywhere. And you guys have a lot of DJs. Where did that come from? What's your relationship with the DJ world, the music world? What is what you want to portray?
That's so interesting you mention it because I just realized that not long ago. We, as a server and bartender, working in nightclubs and just the bar business for a really, really long time before opening my place. Again, you don't realize all of the connections and all of the people that are in your life on a daily basis. And I feel like I've always worked at places that were different, and they had a different clientele, different diversity, which aligns with what I like and where I'm comfortable with, and what I believe and what I surround myself with. At 5 Star, we had a lot of really cool, different music DJs, vinyl back then. And I was, 19 years old serving, and that's the music that I was exposed to when I moved here. So even though, I did my teens and my early 20s here, I have a really like a really weird musical taste and background because I was listening to not top 40s where I was working. We were listening to really old school hip hop, and had really good, and I was lucky enough to have to been exposed to really great musical DJs that now they've been doing this for 25 years, and some of them don't do it on a regular basis because of the bars that generally you would have to DJ. They're going to give you a playlist, and this is what you have to play. And at midnight, you got to hit this one. And Michael Jackson at this time, nothing against Michael Jackson. We all love him. But I think that I was lucky enough to realize that is a DJ is also someone that can they can read the room and they can make it. They can make this a great place. Music is such an important part of our culture, and as human beings, like something familiar and comfortable and that you like, that just makes you stay at a place longer. And I've just been really lucky to be exposed to people that have been doing this for a really long time and cultivated really nice friendships to when now, 20 years later, when they don't want to play it at any club, I'm like, can you play at Veladora? Only 10 people are going to be there. And they're like, yeah, nice. I'll do that, So I've gotten, like I said, I'm thankful to have those connections again with very important and talented people that are willing to do that now. So.
I believe in music so much.
So do I. Yeah,
I may sound like a Karen, or what's the name for guys, Kevin?
David. I think that a male Karen is a David.
But the only bad, it wasn't bad. It was, sometimes I waste my time reviewing things on Google.
That's okay.
And the only one I left with, I think, 4 stars. Was a restaurant in Arizona where the speakers were not working. No, they weren't working. So you heard the distortion, and it was like making a sound. And I was like, guys, I think your speakers need replacement. The music, the sound is a critical factor for, at least for me.
It really is. No, it really is. It really is. Just like lighting. You're like, the dark light. Or the music. I mean, that can kind of mess up the whole vibe.
Yeah. It
really can.
Now that you're talking, Lily, about all the people around you, how do you build your team? What are the characteristics that you're looking for? Because I can tell that, and we were talking about that earlier, you've been surrounded by a lot of people that are bringing the best of them and creating this community. How do you select your team?
My staff? So I'm not going to say picky. I'm going to say I'm very particular about building a really strong, almost team, community, family. And with that said, there's always someone in the family, like your little cousin that's sometimes annoying and you don't like them, but they're family, right? So this is kind of, let me think, how do I pick that? How do I, it's rare. We don't really have like a big turnaround or like a really big need sometimes to hire because we have once we hire, that we stay with the same team for years, which is very rewarding. I think my main thing as I interview is that they are kind. It doesn't matter if they have experience, really. I think that someone that you can tell are going to be a team player. I think that if you can tell that they are going to be there for the team and the community, and you can always tell personality wise if people are gonna fit or not, and that's really important to me because I mean you work with somebody 15 hours every weekend, you have to have a good relationship with them. If not, that sucks for everyone. So the ability to learn and the eager to want to be better. I usually ask, why do you want to work here? What drew you to this bar? Like, why do you want to be here? This is a lifestyle, a culture that I am really proud of, and it's not just a bar job. And if you want a job that's like, you come in here, you work, and then you're not connected to anyone, and you just come in and this is probably not the job for you. This involves, we have Christmas together. Like a bunch of my team members, a service industry, sometimes you don't get to travel for Christmas or Christmas is far away. And so we do, holidays, Christmas, some birthdays together. You become a family, you become your chosen family. And I've been lucky to have that. with them.
I can sense that every time I go, people, their staff, they are welcoming.
Good.
And they seem to know what they are doing, right? And what I'm saying is like they know the product, they know where mezcal is coming from, they know what the intention. I love that word that you mentioned. The place is very intentional in every single aspect, which I love, and I think that's what makes this place so special and unique.
It is special. Thank you.
Now, Lily, what would you say are some of the most challenging episodes you have experienced in the bar? You were already mentioning a few of them. What are some of the biggest lessons? If someone was coming to you today with this dream of, I've been a big fan of mezcal, and I can tell that you're willing to share your knowledge because of the way you train the staff and the fact that you are doing for the sake of the whole thing, the whole picture, not just because of the business. Yeah. What would you tell them? Where to start? What are the imminent challenges they will face during the journey?
I think one of my biggest challenge is having such a close personal relationship with my staff. Again, I mentioned that when we opened, we had 5 to 6 people. So these were 5 to 6 people that I talked to every single day, figuring out what we're doing, because I was, running it, doing the Instagram bartending and bar backing and staffing and cleaning and the produce order. I mean, I was doing everything. So one of my biggest challenges is having these friendships that became, again, friends / family / closest people to me, and also being the authority. So, when they were late, because we were hanging out and we were maybe hanging out drinking late night, and I'm like, well, don't forget you have a 4 o'clock shift and you're late, really late. Then that was really challenging for me to be like, I know that this is why you're late, but it's a job, right? Really challenging because I really became really close to all of my staff. And there was a point a couple of years ago where I realized that I needed to have a boundary and be a leader and their boss, not first, but equally, so we could separate that line. So, and also for me to be comfortable to be able to tell them and advise what I needed to be done for the business to run without feeling like I was being mean or like crappy or like a crappy boss. So that was a really huge challenge for me. Also, the growth of the business being 5 to 6, 7 people on staff to now I have 27. I can't be best friends with 27 people, but I could be best friends with 7. So that was really challenging, and it was really hard for me creating boundaries and setting a standard. I think that is pretty much what it comes to as a leader. You have to be able to do everything that you're asking people to do. That's why I know how to bar back. I know how to bartend. I do dishes. I will clean the toilets. I will do everything because I would never ask someone in my staff to do something that I'm not willing to do. So that would be one of my biggest challenges probably. And the second, I think everybody in this industry had a huge hit with COVID. I didn't think we would make it back either. We were lucky enough to have support from the neighborhood the couple of first months when we were open till 9 p.m. And we had I think we were able to have 6 people outside in December and closing at 9.
Wow.
Yeah, that was not worth opening, but we did it. And I think also being involved and present without not letting them run, without giving him the confidence and without giving them the ability to run the show without me. That at the end of the day is the end game, right? Yeah. To be able to say, hey, I'm going to go to Mexico so I can set up this thing for us, this pop-up at another bar and education and da. But I can't go if I know that I can't leave so-and-so in charge and I can't, so that has been, again, really rewarding and really great to be able to set up everyone to succeed, whether I'm there or not. Challenging because, again, I was a control freak and I'm still doing everything and being able to let go and being able to put even the liquor orders on someone else. Like, can you order liquor? That is such a huge help, relief. And they understanding that we're doing non-additive mezcal and tequila. We're doing really small villages. We're not going to support any huge brands anymore because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we carry Don Julio. Probably not. It's not going to make a dent in their pocket, right? Doesn't matter to me if we carry Don Julio. Yes. So we're not going to carry huge industrial brands. Don't order that. If it's not additive free, I don't even want to taste it. So understanding kind of where we are going from a business, but really sticking to what I believe. And I think that the people that are in my team also believe it. Yeah, pretty much sharing values, right? You also want to staff and be around people that you know that you align with your values, or at least with personal choices that you align with the same values, pretty much.
Now, if you could go back in time when you were transitioning to opening William & Company, because I understand that was a challenging part. What advice would you tell yourself?
I think and I don't want to put this on, anyone else thinking that this is what they were thinking of me, but there was a lot of very noticeable, very valid, I guess, very obvious conversations with people when they were like, why? I'm sorry to say this, but why are you doing this? Like, you have a newborn, or don't have any money. You have a newborn and you have no money. Like, where is this? Like, a lot of you're not going to be able to do it, or why are you doing it? Should you wait? Are you doing this because you're losing another business and you're trying to replace? All of these questions, I remember having various conversations with people around me. And I guess my biggest advice is just, if you know that you can do it, no one is going to tell you no. Like, if you believe it and you're like, I don't care if I don't sleep, I don't have any money, I don't have money for diapers, I don't care if I do 4 shifts in a row, I'll sleep, like the Mexicans say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Not the best cultural, advice now. But, my biggest advice is just don't give up, and don't take mistakes or things that challenged you and that made you grow. Don't take that as, oh my God, that sucks so bad. Don't focus on the bad. Focus on what that did to you as how it helped you become who you are now. I never see those things as, that was the biggest mistake of my life. I see it as like, oh my God, that was the biggest learning curve someone could possibly do for me. And sometimes even now I look back and I'm like, I don't know how I did that. But you do, right? You did it. Mm-hmm. So that just means that if you did that, then you can do it again. You can manage a way of seeing the positive out of a negative situation, because it's never negative. It's a learning experience, as sucky as it was.
It's your choice. It's everybody's choice to determine what we want to take from the lesson.
Of course.
If we want to take a look at that from a negative side, or if we want to take the positive.
Or if you want to still talk about what it did to you negatively, or what it actually did to you in a positive way, right? So, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Now, what's the question that you wish people ask you more often?
A question that I would want people.
We can put it in these terms. What are you more passionate about? Or what do you enjoy talking about the most? Is it mezcal? Is it the process? Is it more personal things, personal growth? What topic captures your entire attention?
You know what I think it is? I think when you meet someone, and this is something that I've noticed with people that that attract me to have a connection with, is when people find what they love and what they feel. Like, you can tell this person loves what they do. They enjoy it. They nerd out. They dip into it. They want to know more. They see all of the layers of this love, like an onion. All of the layers of. I think that when I meet someone that has found that as a job or as a hobby or as something that is so passionate to them, it makes me want to be around those people. And I think it is rare. I think it's rare that there's a lot of people that have never found things that just fills them up, And yeah, I think that I was really lucky, and I'm really happy that I found the industry, the job, the connection, the culture, being Mexican, everything that is in front of me that I'm creating is something that I am so proud of. I am always learning. It's something that is never going to stop from developing, because there's always another layer of anything. I am 100% content and happy and fulfilled with what I do. I really do. Like, I love it. I love learning, even like I was talking to you about the agaves that need to be stressed out for them to grow even better. I mean, things like that just fill me up. And I wish that for so many more people, because I think that that connection, that ability to be completely content with your world makes you want to connect and be content with their world. And that's the way to almost like transmitting great energy and not have jealousy and not have like, why are they doing that? Or even being a hater about little things, when once you see they're like, they love it. Like, there's nothing that you can say bad about this person or about what they do, because they love it. Yeah, I think self love and being content with who you are, right?
Yeah.
I think that is something that I admire and I see in people, and it fills me up, and it makes me want to share. Like, oh, you like that? Well, I love this, you know? So yeah.
I'm experiencing that right now with Shannon, my girlfriend. I mean, I'm enjoying this part of my career doing the podcast, because I do mostly banking. Yeah. So this is something very different. And I love it. And Shannon, and my girlfriend who you met, she is learning a lot about plants. And you heard a little bit of that.
Yes.
Every time I'm walking, she's like, guess what I learned? I learned this, and that.
That's cool.
And you can see how passionate.
How happy it makes her, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you La Veladora? This is a question. Is La Veladora the project that you have been the most proud of?
Yeah, that was my love project. It's my love project that is not probably financially the best decision sometimes. But it is. I'm really proud of it. It took a really long time. It was very challenging. It was the first space that I did by myself, 100% of it. You know, Willco, I was married then, so me and my ex-husband opened that together. So we kind of, divided tasks So Veladora was the first one that I did 100% all of it by myself. Learning experience, a lot of information that was like, oh my God, they're speaking to me in Chinese, like contractors telling me about things and I have no idea. So a lot of learning, a lot of challenges, a lot of heartaches, a lot of crying, a lot of canceling parties because we were behind schedule on opening. Completely love project because of how long it took, how intentional I wanted it to be, how overlooked it was at the beginning based on need of space. And we kind of changed the dynamic of the DJ, and it's a seating area. And now that we have built a bar full of non-additive, rare, small village, awesome tequila, mezcal, and bacanora, and raicilla, and so on, we're able to now, focus more on educating about the products that we have behind the bar, which we hadn't been doing, because based on volume, people are coming in, they're like, we just want to, get 5 tecates and 5 alcazares and get out of here. And I'm like, wait, I have this macuritos de pestate that is never going to be made again. With that said, it's been very challenging love project. And like I said, sometimes the business part of it doesn't align or equal out, but I'm going to stick with it because I love it. And like I said, I think that people are going to appreciate it when you actually have the time and the experience to enjoy it that way.
Yeah. And I think that time will come.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to close this with appreciation for others, right? And I can start by saying that I appreciate that you are here and sharing all this. So I really, really appreciate it. Who do you admire?
Who do I admire? I mean, there's a lot of people that I admire. There's a lot of, I'm going to say, women in the bar business. It's a really hard business to be in, period. And women in the business, a little bit more rare to see ownership. And again, I admire anyone that has believed in what they believe in and they have not sold out or gone another way for it to be easier or more acceptable. I like people that do things based on how they feel and what they do. And I have, a lot of, Mexican artists and Mexican writers and poets and people that I follow that I admire. But as a general admiration, is really people that stick and to what they believe and they don't take the easy way out to conform or hide who they really are to be accepted. People that have a really open mind and heart, pretty much. I like people like that. So.
Those are the people who can make a change. And I feel that you're that brave person in this area who is making that change for this type of approaches to mezcal. And it's a different way to know Mexico. It's non-conventional, different.
I agree. That's why we have that big Mexican flag on the front of the bar, right? So people know it's Mexican. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of the cultural aspects from Mexico that are not portrayed in the most accurate way. And I think it's our job as immigrants who adopted the North American, U.S. culture. I tried not to say American because I always criticize.
Yeah.
America's a continent.
It is a continent. Everybody's American. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, as immigrants, we are adopting this culture, but we also want to show where we are coming from. And where we are coming from is so rich. Has a lot of cultural differences, and it's exquisite, I will say, when you dig deep.
I agree. Best country ever in the world.
Do you have any last remark, Lily? Any thoughts? Any commentaries? Any shout out to anybody?
Well, I mean, lots of shout outs, actually, especially my staff at Willco and Veladora and now the patio. They're the best. They really are some of the best group of humans that have collectively taken care of each other and the standard of work and ethic and respect and that place. I'm very, very proud to see how they grow every day. You know, obviously my son Liam, because now that he's 12, he is starting to appreciate what work is slowly. So I'm starting to make sure that he has a pretty good little strong work ethic. And of course, my family and people that have supported me through this long journey of 10 years and seeing people loving the place. We've celebrated birthdays and weddings and anniversaries and breakups and all kinds of life events there. And it's really special to me. So everyone that really has supported me, like my whole career, my mom included, she's a big fan. Like I said, kind of a nerd. So she's very supportive of me as well. So.
Where do people can find you physically and on social media?
Oh, okay. So at Willco Bar on Instagram, at La Veladora Willco on Instagram, and coming soon, we're trying to rebrand the patio. We're gonna have a little bit of the mezcal kind of vibe for back there. Lots of limpias and a lot of like Palo Santo burning. So we're rebranding that little part of there. So I'll keep you updated on that and Instagram. And I am there in and out pretty much every day. I just don't have a set schedule, but I'm at Lily B on Instagram.
Lily, thank you so much. This has been
so fun.
So fun.
It was fun.
So
we could sit
great.
here and talk for hours now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I warmed up.
I'll make sure to do a follow-up with all the updates. And we can talk about anything else.
Yeah.
We can bring the staff. Why not?
Yeah, they would they would love it. They would love it. We can do something like, what's your favorite mezcal, or what's your favorite drink to make with this, and anything like that.
Lily, thank you so much. Don't have enough words to say how appreciative of your journey, of your business, of your mission I am. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. This was so fun.
And thank you everybody for being here in one episode of TAOL Podcast. We had Lily from La Veladora. See you next time.